There is a way to be rid of the mice and the rats in your house for good, for the price of a bit of steel wool and an old bucket, that the man with the poison and the monthly bill would just as soon you never learned. It uses not a single drop of poison. And that is the whole of why it works for good, where the poison only ever works for a season. The poison kills a few and leaves the door wide open for the next. This shuts the door. It does not fight the mice at all. It takes away the very things that brought them in, and then it lets the house itself turn them away. I learned this sealing up the old farmhouse at my mother's side when I was a girl, and I have done it my whole life long, the same as she did, and her mother before her. We never once paid a man to lay poison in a house where children crawled and cats slept. We had $1 of steel wool, a bucket, and the plain knowing of how a mouse thinks. My name is Elsie Yoder, a plain Amish grandmother here in Lancaster County, and I am going to be honest with you the way I always am, because honesty is the only thing that makes a video like this worth your time. I will tell you exactly why the poison fails you, exactly how to shut a house against them for good, how to clear out the ones already inside, and the mistakes that keep most folks fighting the same mice year after year. Before I go on, for the folks who want all of it, every method I have worked out over a long life of keeping a home for so much less than the English pay, my husband and I have put it together in one place, in the Amish Home Savings Guide, over at elsieyoderamish.com, the link just below. You need none of it for what comes next. Now let me tell you what is really going on, for once you see it, the whole thing turns plain. You will never kill your way out of a mouse problem. Never. I want you to truly hear that, because the whole poison trade is built on you not believing it. A pair of mice can become a dozen, and that dozen 100, faster than you can ever set traps, for they breed the year round, a new litter every few weeks. So you may kill the ones you see and feel you have won, and the ones you never saw are already raising up the next crop down in the wall. The mice on your floor are like the ants on your counter that I have spoken of before. They are the few that come out into the open. The trouble is the nest you cannot see, and the poison is worse than no help at all, for two hard reasons. The first is that a poisoned mouse does not go outside to die. It crawls back into your wall, and there it dies, and there it lies and rots, and you will smell it for 2 and 3 weeks and not be able to reach it. And the second reason is the one that grieves me most. The poison does not stop with the mouse. The cat that catches that slow, sick, poisoned mouse is poisoned in her turn. The owl and the hawk that hunt your barn for free, the best mousers the good Lord ever made, they eat the poisoned mouse and they die of it too. So you poison away the very hunters that would have kept your mice down for nothing. No, we do not poison. We shut the door, we clear the table, and we trap out what is left. So, the door. This is the heart of the whole matter, and the part nearly everyone skips. A mouse can squeeze through a hole no bigger than a dime, scarce a quarter of an inch, for it has no true bones in its shoulders to stop it. A rat through a hole the size of a $50. So if there is a gap that size anywhere on your house, you have an open door, and all the trapping in the world is bailing a boat with a hole still in the bottom. Take a flashlight and go round your house, inside and out, low down, and look. Look where the pipes and the wires come into the wall, under the kitchen sink and behind the washer. Look along the foundation, where the house meets its base. Look under the doors, at the corners of the garage, around the dryer vent, behind the stove and the icebox. Every gap you find, you stuff full and tight with steel wool, packed in hard, for a mouse cannot chew through steel wool. It cuts his teeth, and he gives it up. Then you cover the wool over with caulk or with a bit of spray foam to hold it and hide it. Copper mesh does the same and will not rust in a damp spot. Seal every door you find, and you have done the greatest part of the work, once and for all. Next, you take away the table. A house with food left open is a house worth the trouble to a mouse, so you make it not worth the trouble. All your dry goods, the flour and the cornmeal and the oats and the rice and the pet food too, get them up out of the cardboard and the paper bags, for a mouse chews through those in a night, and into tins and jars of metal and glass with tight lids. Sweep up the crumbs, don't leave the dog's dish down full overnight. And take away the warm, hidden places where they nest, the piles of old paper and rag and clutter in the cellar and the closet, and move the woodpile off away from the house, for that is a mouse city right against your wall. A house with no easy food and no easy nest is a house the mice will leave of their own accord. Now the old folks kept a deterrent or two by the doors as well, and I will give it to you honest. A few drops of peppermint oil on a cotton ball, tucked into the corners and the entries and the back of the cupboards, will turn a mouse away, for they cannot abide the strong smell of it. But hear me plain, this turns them from a place, it does not clear a nest, that is already settled in, and the smell fades, so you must freshen it. It is a help at the edges, not a cure. Do not lean your whole hope on it. Now to clear out the ones already inside, and here is the old farm trap that catches more in a night than a dozen of the little snap traps. You take a 5-gallon bucket, you lean a board up against the rim for a ramp, and across the top you set a roller, a tin can or a length of pipe run through with a stiff wire laid across the bucket's mouth, and you smear that can with a dab of peanut butter. The mouse runs up the ramp for the peanut butter, steps out onto the can rolls under his feet, and down into the bucket he goes, and he cannot climb back out the smooth sides. One such bucket will catch a great many in a single night, where a snap trap catches the one. Leave the bucket dry if you mean to carry them off down the road, or put a few inches of water in the bottom for a sure and quick end. The old barns all had one. And the snap traps, which most folks set wrong and then say do not work. 2 things. First, the mouse runs along the wall, never out in the open, with his whiskers brushing the baseboard, so you set the trap right against the wall, with the bait end, the trigger, turned toward the wall, so he meets it head-on as he runs his road. A trap set out in the middle of the floor will sit there empty a month. Second, you bait it with the smallest dab of peanut butter, just a smear, not a glob, so he must work at it and set off the spring, and you set out many at the once, a half a dozen, not the lonely one. And here is the trick the old trappers knew. Set your traps out baited, but not yet set to spring, for a night or two, and let the mice grow easy, feeding off them with no harm. Then, once they have lost their fear and are coming bold, you set them all to spring on the same night, and you will be astonished in the morning. Now there is one more the old folks used, and I give it to you only as history, plainly, for I favor the sealing and the trapping over it. They would mix dry plaster with cornmeal or flour, half and half, and set it out where the mice fed, with a dish of water near, and the mice would eat it. I will not dress it up for you. It is a slow way, and an uncertain one, and to my mind, the bucket and the well-set trap are kinder and surer both. So I tell you it was done, but I would have you seal and trap instead. Hear me now on the mistakes, for they are why folks fight the same mice every winter. The first, and the greatest, is trapping without sealing, fighting the ones inside while the door stands open for 10 more. Seal first, always. The second is the lonely trap, set many, not one. The third is handling your traps with bare hands, for the mouse smells you on them and shies away. Wear a glove, or rub the trap with a few oats first to cover your scent. The fourth is leaving the food and the clutter out, so the house is still worth the risk to them. And the fifth is the poison, which I have told you, kills your cat and rots in your wall, and never once shuts the door. And here is a word of care I will not let you skip, for it is the most important of all, and it is about your own health. Once you have caught them and you go to clean up after the mice, the droppings and the nests they leave behind, you must never sweep them or run the vacuum over them. Never. For that throws the dust of them up into the air, and the diseases a mouse carries ride that dust straight into your lungs, and some of them are no small matter. So instead you put on a pair of gloves and you wet the droppings and the mess down, well, first with soapy water or a bit of bleach water, let it sit a few minutes, and then wipe it all up damp with a rag or a paper and put it straight into a bag and tie it shut. Damp, never dry. Gloves, never bare hands. Mind that, and mind it every time. Now you may wonder, if $1 of steel wool and an old bucket will rid a house of mice for good, why does the man come with his poison and his clipboard and his bill every single month? You may even have heard it said the old ways are banned in this state or that. Well, there is a grain of truth and a great heap of nonsense in that, the same as ever. Here and there a place will fuss over how a thing is sold and labeled, the way they fuss over anything too cheap to please them. But there is nothing banned about a bit of steel wool stuffed in a hole. The plainer truth is the sadder one. There is no money to be made in a hole sealed once and for all. There is a river of money in poison bought again every month, and a man who must keep coming back because the door he never closed lets the next mouse in. A trouble cured for good is the worst thing that can happen to a trade built on the trouble coming back. So the old sure way was not banned. It was simply buried and let be forgotten by everyone who stood to profit from your never learning it. So here is what I would have you do. Take your flashlight and find every gap and stuff them tight with steel wool, for that is the whole battle won. Put your dry goods up in metal and glass and clear the clutter they nest in. Set your bucket and your traps for the ones already inside, baited unset for a night first, then sprung, and leave the poison on the store shelf where it belongs, and then come back down here and tell me in the comments what county you live in, and how old is your house, and whether it is mice or rats you fight. For the old houses have 100 doors a mouse knows, and you do not, and I am always learning which troubles go with which sort of home. And tell me true, and I will read every one. And know there is nothing clever in any of it. It is only remembered. The folks who kept these houses before us were not one bit wiser than you and I are. They simply could not afford the man with the poison, and they would not have him near the children if they could, and so they could not afford to forget how to shut a house against a mouse. Teach it to one young soul setting up a first home, for that is how this knowing has stayed alive, not in any book, but from one pair of hands down to the next. Next time, the good Lord willing, I will show you the $2 way my mother kept a dozen eggs fresh clear through the winter, with no icebox at all. Until then, mind your doors, keep the poison off your land, and God keep you all.